So Resident Evil has always been known for some of the most terrifying and disturbing monster designs. From the creepy bug lady, Marguerite Baker, all the way down to RE2's big bad, William Birkin. However, throughout the years, Resident Evil has gone the other route as well by developing some monsters that, despite the fact that they barely resemble human beings anymore, are still somewhat attractive. Yeah, I'm not ashamed to admit that some of the monster designs that appear on today's list had me checking them out just a little bit. I know, kinda weird considering these creatures have lost most of their humanity. Either way, today we're going to focus on the 10 monsters of Resident Evil that fans are weirdly attracted to. For the record, not all of these monsters did I find myself personally attracted to, but rather a good chunk of the community have, to the point where you'll probably find some weirdly disturbing concept art all over the internet. Before we get started though, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel for more survival horror content. Also hit that like button if you enjoyed today's topic. Anyway, my name is Ruben with Nerdspace Games, and this is 10 monsters of Resident Evil that fans are weirdly attracted to. Let's get it. Number 10, Derek Simmons, Resident Evil 6. Derek Simmons might be the perfect example of a character in Resident Evil that actually looks better after he's infected compared to his human form. I mean, when he was human, he was just a typical old guy in a suit. Nothing that special about him, right? However, the dude gets ripped as hell when Carlos shoots him with the C-Virus, and next thing you know, he's got abs and he's actually pretty built despite his slim figure. And sure, the dude has got scars all over his body from when he transforms into the 5 million different forms that he has. But hey, something about those scars just really makes him look even more badass, you know? Obviously, he's got nothing on most of the other monsters on today's list, but the guy at least deserves a spot at the bottom of today's list when he's in his shirtless, somewhat human-like form, complete with badass scars. Number 9, Mr. X, Resident Evil 2 Remake. Okay, Mr. X might be the weirdest entry on this list, as the dude is just pretty much a tall, gray, bald man with a trench coat, and honestly speaking, that doesn't really seem like much. But holy hell, has the Resident Evil community really simped the hell out of this guy, to the point where there are some mods for this guy that creates some thirst traps for those interested in that kind of thing. Maybe it's because the dude is ripped as hell in the final fight against him in Leon's campaign, but damn, did we really need a mod with the guy running around in a Speedo? But I will say, in his defense, he instantly becomes more badass when you add in that mod for X Gonna Give It To Ya.
X gonna deliver to you. Knock, knock, open up the door, it's real. With the non-stop pop out and stainless steel.
Great, now that song is stuck in my head again. Number 8, Morpheus, Resident Evil Dead Aim. Here's a strange one for you guys. In Resident Evil Dead Aim, the main antagonist of the game is a man named Morpheus. He's basically your typical mercenary in it for the money action movie villain. However, there's one unique thing about Morpheus that really makes him stand out compared to any other villain in the Resident Evil universe. See, Morpheus becomes a tyrant, but unlike every other tyrant in the Resident Evil universe, for some reason he reacts differently with the virus, and it creates the first ever feminine tyrant in the Resident Evil universe. Not only is this tyrant a female though, there's a strangely weird, attractive vibe about this creepy ass monster, to the point it's one of the sexier monsters in Resident Evil. Am I personally attracted to Morpheus? Not really. But man, there are some hardcore Dead Aim fans out there that says Morpheus is the sexiest tyrant of the Resident Evil universe. I mean, first off, have these people met Mr. Thick from Resident Evil 0? Like, holy shit, dude, that ass. Seriously though, not much competition out there, I suppose, so sure, I guess technically speaking, Morpheus is the hottest tyrant in the Resident Evil franchise, right? Number 7, Lady Dimitrescu, Resident Evil Village. So here's the first character on today's list I personally find attractive, and I mean, who really doesn't? It's a tall, pale-skinned, slender, beautiful woman with big, and I mean a big, personality. Wait, what did you guys think I was gonna say there? Get your heads out of the gutter, guys. Jeez, people. In all seriousness, Lady D definitely made her mark on the Resident Evil community even before the game came out. In fact, Capcom instantly realized how popular this beautiful vampire lady was that they immediately started to build all of their marketing around her, even if she was only in a small section of the game. I mean, even before the game came out, Lady D was going viral with how excited gamers were about this character, and she instantly became one of Resident Evil's most iconic villains just for the way that she looked alone. Then, when the game released, let's just say that some of us loved being manhandled by this mature, sexy looking vampire. I mean, there's really nothing that this girl could do that would make her less holy shit, what the fuck just happened? Jesus, save me, Tom Cruise, save me, oh god, what did I just walk into? Number 6, Alexia Ashford, Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles. Alexia was the first monster in Resident Evil that honestly made teenager me question my taste. Despite being a green lady with vines all over her, teenager Ruben was all about this girl. I blame puberty, honestly. In all seriousness, Alexia Ashford was hot as hell in Code Veronica, but she was even more attractive with her transformation in the Dark Side Chronicles. And before you guys start judging me for finding Alexia attractive, I know some of you DC fanboys and fangirls out there were attracted to Poison Ivy when you were younger, so don't give me that crap. It's pretty much the same thing, so yeah. With her slender body, her seductive walk, and the fact that the only thing covering her body are her hentai-like vines, it's no surprise that Alexia Ashford had a sex appeal to her for teenagers despite her being a monster in the Resident Evil universe. Number 5, Jack Krauser, Resident Evil 4. The next 2 entries on today's list are kind of cheating, as both of these entries feature characters that are infected by some sort of virus but still manage to keep most of their human-like traits. The first of which is Jack Krauser. Since we are talking about monsters of Resident Evil, we'll skip to his final form, which features Krauser without a shirt on and one or both of his arms being mutated into some sort of parasitic monstrosity. I'll say one or both because it's different depending on which game you play, with the original only featuring his left arm transforming and the remake eventually having both arms transform before the final fight against him. Either way, Jack Krauser is built like an ox, even more built than say characters like Chris Redfield and Albert Wesker in Resident Evil 5. That complete with his raspy and cold-hearted voice and the badass scar across his face, and it's no wonder why Krauser makes some of the ladies go wild. Hell, even I'm jealous of this guy's physique. And sure, the mutated arms on Krauser might bring him down a couple of notches, but unlike other monsters of the Resident Evil universe, Krauser still manages to keep most of his body, which is more than I can say for most of the entries on today's list. Number 4, Albert Wesker, Resident Evil 5. Speaking of RE5, we can't talk about the sexiest monsters of Resident Evil without mentioning everyone's favorite daddy, Albert Wesker. Seriously, I can't tell you guys how many times I've heard people call him Daddy Wesker, and I'm literally not joking one bit when I tell you that there are some strange kinks out there in terms of what people do with his character in Dead by Daylight. Regardless, I can see the appeal of Wesker. I mean, look at him. He's fucking God's perfect life form, and any man on this planet would love to look like this guy and have the bad boy charm that Wesker has. Yeah, even when he goes full-blown Ouroboros on us in Resident Evil 5. In fact, I think it was the final fight against Wesker with his shirt off that started the whole Daddy Wesker train, and since then people have just been simping the hell out of this guy. Speaking of which, I'm honestly surprised that Dead by Daylight hasn't released a shirtless Dead by Daylight skin for Wesker, because I know for damn sure that would make them big bucks if they ever release that skin. Like, can you imagine all the fan service people would get out of the shirtless Wesker charging towards them in Dead by Daylight? Some survivors might even stand there and just take the hit, not even kidding. Number 3, Rachel Foley, Resident Evil Revelations. I don't think there is a more seductive monster in Resident Evil than Rachel Foley in RE Revelations. Rachel is the perfect example of a character that can literally be sexy no matter what you do to her. As a human, she's already extremely attractive thanks to her physique, sexy voice, and her revealing costume. Not to mention, she gives Lady D a run for her money in a certain department that I'm sure you guys know exactly what I mean. But even though her transformation is one of the scariest parts of Resident Evil Revelations, she still maintains all of her sexiest parts, making her one of the sexiest monsters in Resident Evil. It also doesn't help that she has an extremely seductive voice, and when you first encounter her, she's pretty much pushing her entire body against the glass, giving Jill Valentine front row seats to the Rachel Foley show.
Found you. Oh shit, you...
Here's a 3-for-1 deal to Dimitrescu Daughters, a Resident Evil Village. Alcina Dimitrescu gets all of the attention from most Resident Evil fanboys and fangirls, which is totally understandable. With that being said, I personally have and always preferred each of her 3 daughters, Bella, Cassandra, and Daniela. On top of just being absolutely beautiful, even in their undead vampire-like forms, these are 3 ladies that can torture me anytime. Actually, I couldn't help but feel a little jealous of Ethan throughout the events of Resident Evil Village when he was being chased by all 3 of these women. As I said, each of them are absolutely gorgeous, and on top of that, they are extremely seductive to the point where they make some borderline sexual comments.
Mother said stale, but I think you're delicious. Like that? Harder? Blood. Warm, wet, bright red blood.
So you finally came to see me.
Everyone falls for me in time.
Sure, it's a little weird that they basically want to torture and eat your flesh, but once you get past those "I'm going to devour you" comments, you're left with 3 beautiful women who just find you attractive and love to tease you every second they are on screen. What's not to love, right? Number 1, Deborah Harper, Resident Evil 6. I can't think of a monster that more fans of the Resident Evil community find more attractive than that of Resident Evil 6's very own Deborah Harper. I mean, come on, Capcom had to know what they were doing right here, right? First off, Deborah is already beautiful in her own right. Sure, she doesn't compare to other iconic characters of the franchise, like Ada, Jill, Claire, or even Rebecca, but she's still up there for sure. With that being said, her monster transformation might arguably be one of the hottest transformations of the entire series. I'm actually weirded out by myself with how attractive I still find her even after she transforms into a monster. But can you really blame me? Not only does she keep her human physique, but she basically goes full-blown nude on us, literally from head to toe. And if that wasn't enough to do it for you, she spends almost every moment in your fight against her doing sexy poses and acting all seductive-like. Like, what the hell is she trying to do to us? Does she lose some points because she's all slimy all over, have spider-like limbs, and essentially looks like she's some sort of alien? Well, yeah, I guess. But even despite all of that, she's still the sexiest monster on today's list, and for that reason, I feel like most Resident Evil fans out there, whether they want to admit it or not, still find her attractive despite her going full-blown monster mode on us. That does it for this episode of Nerd Space Games. I know this was a weird one, but I actually had it requested a lot in the comments of previous videos, so here we are. Either way, I'd love to know your thoughts on my list. Is Deborah Harper the sexiest monster in Resident Evil? Do you think it's weird that people find any of these monsters attractive? And how many of the entries on today's list do you think are attractive? Let me know all of your opinions down below. Anyway, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to my channel for more survival horror content. Also, leave a like on today's video if you enjoyed today's topic. But thanks for watching, and as always, I'll catch you guys on the next episode of Nerd Space Games. Take care.